not supposed to pour champagne. And I come around and I think, man, I'm gonna try to get a line in. I'm gonna try, because they're all having a conversation.
For decades, Brad Pitt has been one of Hollywood's most celebrated and mysterious figures, a man whose personal life has been as captivating as his career. From his early rise in Thelma and Louise to global stardom in Fight Club and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Brad's charm, talent, and image as the ultimate leading man have made him an icon. Yet behind the fame, fortune, and countless headlines lies a love story that never truly faded, one that Brad himself has finally spoken about after years of silence. At 61, Brad Pitt has broken his silence with a confession that has left fans stunned. There was one woman who truly held his heart, the one he calls the love of my life. For years, speculation surrounded his high-profile relationships, from Jennifer Aniston to Angelina Jolie. But what most people never knew is that Brad carried a private heartbreak, a love that shaped his soul long before the world saw him as Hollywood's golden boy. This confession reveals a side of Brad Pitt the public rarely sees, vulnerable, reflective, and deeply emotional. This is not the story of a celebrity romance gone wrong. It's the story of a man who, after decades in the spotlight, finally admits that fame can never replace true love. The revelation has reignited questions about who she was, what went wrong, and why it took him so long to say the words that now echo across Hollywood. She was before Brad Pitt became a global icon, a man celebrated for his talent, charm, and looks. There was a chapter of his life defined by a love that left an indelible mark on his heart. This wasn't a fleeting romance or a Hollywood fling. It was a deep, formative connection that shaped the person he would become. In his early 20s, Brad was navigating the uncertainty of life, chasing acting dreams, and trying to find his place in a world that often seemed bigger than him. Amid auditions, small roles, and long nights in Los Angeles, he met someone who would forever change the way he viewed love and relationships. She wasn't famous. She didn't make headlines. But she had a presence that captivated Brad, a blend of intelligence, kindness, and understanding that made him feel truly seen for the first time. Friends close to Brad recall that this relationship was intense, yet grounded. Unlike the Hollywood romances that would later dominate tabloids, this love was private, authentic, and deeply emotional. It was a connection built on shared dreams, conversations that stretched into the night, and an unspoken understanding that transcended superficial attraction. For Brad, she became his anchor, his confidant, and the person whose opinion mattered more than anyone else's in the world. Yet, as often happens in life, timing and circumstances were not on their side. Brad's early career was demanding, unpredictable, and fraught with uncertainty. Opportunities came and went, requiring him to prioritize ambition and survival over personal life. The pressure of chasing a dream while nurturing a meaningful relationship created tension, moments of doubt, and, ultimately, heartache. Despite the challenges, Brad's feelings never wavered. He often reflected on how this early love taught him lessons that would guide him through life and career. He learned the importance of vulnerability, the value of emotional honesty, and the profound impact that one person can have on shaping your character. She became the blueprint of love in Brad's heart, influencing the way he approached relationships for decades to come. Even as Hollywood called, bringing fame, fortune, and high-profile relationships, the memory of this early love lingered. It wasn't about regret. It was about acknowledgement, understanding that some connections are rare, profound, and transformative, leaving a mark that no amount of success or distraction can erase. By the time Brad Pitt reached the pinnacle of stardom, the lessons and memories of this early relationship had already cemented themselves in his identity. It was a love that quietly guided him, challenged him, and ultimately shaped the man who would one day confess, after decades, that she had truly been the love of his life, as the love of my life. Every love story has its trials, and for Brad Pitt, the early relationship that shaped his heart was no exception. What began as a deep, transformative connection eventually faced challenges that tested both passion and patience. challenges that would lead to a separation with long-lasting impact. In the whirlwind of Brad's early career, the demands of ambition collided with the realities of maintaining a personal relationship. Auditions, long hours on set, and the uncertainty of acting success created distance between him and the woman he loved. Even when physically present, his mind was often consumed by the pursuit of opportunity, leaving little room for emotional reassurance. The strain of balancing love and ambition slowly began to take its toll. Friends and insiders have shared that the decision to part ways was mutual, yet heartbreaking. Neither wanted the love to end, but circumstances demanded it. Brad faced a painful choice: continue chasing a dream that could define his life, or remain tied to a relationship that, while profound, could limit the opportunities he had worked so tirelessly to pursue. Like many early adult heartbreaks, the separation wasn't born from a lack of love, but from the impossibility of aligning timing, dreams, and life paths. The separation left a lasting impression on Brad. He often reflected on what was lost, recognizing that this love had been formative, rare, and authentic in a way that few experiences could ever match. While he continued to navigate relationships in Hollywood, there was an unspoken benchmark set by this early romance, a standard of connection, intimacy, and emotional resonance that others rarely achieved. Even as he entered high-profile relationships later in life, the memory of this love remained a quiet presence. It wasn't regret that defined his feelings, but reverence and acknowledgement. He carried the lessons it imparted, the value of vulnerability, the importance of honesty, and the recognition that true love doesn't always coincide with circumstance. The separation also influenced Brad's personal growth. Experiencing heartbreak at a formative stage taught him resilience, patience, and the ability to confront emotions honestly, traits that would serve him in both his career and future relationships. It became clear that even when love ends, it leaves something permanent behind, an imprint on the heart and an understanding of the depth of human connection. By the time Brad became a global superstar, the impact of that early separation was still evident. In interviews, he occasionally reflected on lessons learned, hinting at a love that had shaped his understanding of relationships, intimacy, and commitment. It was a reminder that even amidst fame and fortune, some loves leave a lasting mark that transcends years and distance. At 61, Brad's recent confession about the love of his life shows that the separation, while necessary at the time, never erased the depth of feeling he held. It was a love that endured silently, shaping the man who would go on to capture the hearts of millions, yet never forgetting the one who truly first captured his own. After the separation, Brad Pitt's life moved forward at a rapid pace. Hollywood fame, blockbuster roles, and high-profile relationships filled his days and dominated the public eye. Yet beneath the glamour, awards, and media frenzy, a quiet part of his heart remained tethered to the love he had lost, the woman he would one day call the love of my life. For decades, Brad carried this connection privately. Friends close to him describe it as a silent, persistent presence, a memory that influenced how he approached relationships, parenthood, and even career choices. Unlike his public romances, this love was not performative or subject to scrutiny. It was intimate, personal, and deeply formative. The years of reflection allowed Brad to understand the depth and rarity of what he had experienced. He realized that not all relationships are meant to last, yet some leave an indelible mark that shapes character, empathy, and emotional intelligence. The woman he loved first taught him about vulnerability, honesty, and the transformative power of emotional intimacy, lessons that would guide him through decades of public and private life. Despite dating and marrying other prominent figures later, there was always a quiet benchmark set by that early love. None could quite match the emotional intensity and connection he had once experienced. It was not a matter of comparison, but rather a recognition of a profound, unique bond, one that had left a permanent imprint on his heart. Brad's private longing also influenced his artistry and humanitarian endeavors. The empathy and sensitivity he cultivated through this early heartbreak allowed him to relate deeply to the characters he portrayed and the causes he supported. He learned to channel emotion, reflection, and understanding into every role, every decision, and every public gesture. Even in the most public moments of his life, the memory of this love lingered. Behind the smiles at premieres, the laughter at award shows, and the playful banter with co-stars, Brad carried a quiet reverence for what he had experienced. It was a love unspoken, yet profoundly felt. A touchstone that reminded him of authenticity, emotional depth, and the meaning of true connection. By the time Brad reached his 60s, he had accumulated fame, accolades, and recognition, but he had also accumulated wisdom about love, loss, and timing. The years of reflection solidified the understanding that some loves transcend circumstance, and even decades later, they remain etched in the heart. When he finally confessed that she had been the love of my life, it wasn't a sudden revelation. It was the culmination of decades of private longing, reflection, and emotional truth. It was an acknowledgement that despite life's twists and turns, some connections are unforgettable and some loves endure quietly, influencing every choice, every relationship, and every chapter of one's life. At 61, Brad Pitt made a confession that stunned the world. She was the love of my life. After decades of speculation, media rumors, and high-profile relationships, he finally spoke openly about the one love that had left an indelible mark on his heart, a love that defined him long before fame and fortune ever arrived. The confession was not just about romance. It was a revelation of vulnerability, honesty, and reflection. Brad, a man often perceived as confident and untouchable, revealed the profound human truth that even icons carry memories, regrets, and enduring affections that remain private for years. This acknowledgement showed a side of him the public rarely sees, deeply emotional, introspective, and courageous enough to speak openly about what truly matters to the heart. For decades, the world had witnessed Brad's public relationships, marriages, high-profile romances, and partnerships that captured headlines. But none could replace or replicate the early love that had shaped his understanding of intimacy, trust, and connection. In revealing it, Brad underscored that some bonds transcend time and circumstance, leaving a permanent imprint on the soul. The impact of this confession extends beyond Hollywood gossip. It reminds audiences that love is not always about permanence, fame, or public acknowledgement. Some loves influence who we are, guide our decisions, and shape our emotional growth, even if life forces separation. Brad's honesty brings this universal truth to light, resonating with anyone who has experienced a love that changed their life in profound but quiet ways. The reaction from fans, media, and peers was immediate and intense. Social media buzzed with speculation, admiration, and empathy. People were moved by his willingness to reveal such a personal truth, proving that even celebrities, often idolized, or scrutinized, face heartbreak, reflection, and enduring emotions just like anyone else. For Brad, the confession was a cathartic moment. It allowed him to honor the love that had never faded, acknowledge the lessons it imparted, and finally give voice to a story that had shaped decades of his life. By sharing it publicly, he not only embraced vulnerability but also inspired countless others to reflect on the enduring power of early love, the importance of emotional honesty, and the way meaningful connections leave a lasting mark. In the end, Brad Pitt's confession is more than a headline. It is a reminder of the human heart's resilience, depth, and capacity to remember love that truly matters. She may have been from a time long past, but her influence is timeless, shaping the man, the actor, and the human being who finally, after decades, acknowledged the truth that millions of fans now know: she was the love of his life.